Welcome to another episode of the Halo Effect podcast. This episode is called Hard Times Create Strong Men. And reason being is because it was inspired by a book that I'm currently finishing. And that is the title of the book, Hard Times Create Strong Men. That book was written by Stefan Aarnio and essentially, delves into the concept of masculinity and how challenging times and adversity shape individuals into stronger versions of themselves. It's safe to say that in this, culture, in the state of where things are at right now, my personal opinion is that, society has become way too soft. You know, um, I'm all for empathy. I'm all for understanding. I think those are very strong qualities that men should have. Be able to empathize with people and understand people, empathize with themselves, and be able to communicate, be able to be vulnerable. I think that those are very important qualities that a man should have. However, we cannot deny that there's been a, you know, demasculin- demasculinization of men, big word, in this society, in this day and age. Um, what I've seen recently is that, men are not respected as much anymore as they used to be. I'm also seeing, men not being men, you know, men not showing up, men not taking responsibility, men allowing circumstances and people and women do them however they want to. And, there's definitely a lot at play. It's a very complex topic. And part of the, I'm not quite sure why I'm even diving into it and talking about it, but I think that, this book has had a positive influence on me since I picked it up recently. And, I just wanted to have a conversation around it and talk about some of the things that are in the book because I really feel like more men reading books like this, helps them out in a lot of areas in their lives. Um, I believe it helps them out in relationships, in their careers and work and purpose. And I think that it's a book that can help in many areas of men's lives. And I think that, this is a conversation that we need to have as men, um, and just people and culture as a whole. I think that, uh, you know, things have changed a lot since, you know, I was growing up and how my father grew up. And, you know, I feel like some changes have been for the better, though. Some changes have been for the better. Again, in terms of empathy, in terms of understanding the strength and power of vulnerability. I think that those are important qualities for a man to have, a strong man to have. And I think that strong men understand the importance of those qualities, the importance of balancing out being a gentleman and at the same time being who you were created to be, a gatherer, a provider, a dog sometimes, you know. And, this book I started reading after I finished reading The Way of the Superior Man by David Dita for the third time. And so these last essentially 2 months, I've been really, invested in these two books. And so let me give you just a couple bullet points of what this book essentially talks about. Bullet point number one, masculinity and adversity. The book explores how difficult times throughout history have been instrumental in shaping the qualities of strong and resilient men. And some of the examples that the book gives, date back to medieval times, times when, the Roman Empire was still around, Greece, ancient Greece, you know, it dates back to, or it brings back the historical times of medieval times when men were out in war fighting for their country and their women, their lineage, their family, their kids, etc. Of course, we live in different times now. You know, we don't have to kill each other for resources in a sense. I mean, we do have wars, and wars are for resources and money and power. However, it works differently than what it used to before, right? The other point that this book makes and talks about is just an overall historical analysis, you know, by providing a historical perspective on how challenges, wars, and crises have forged strong male figures, emphasizing that adversity often breeds strength. And that is 100% correct. You know, um, part of what I see a lot, you know, in this day and age is people taking the easy way out. People wanting the quick dollar, the quick fix, the one night stand, instant gratification. We live in an instant gratification society. This book also talks about an important topic I feel like a lot of men should be talking about and culture should be talking about overtly, which is pornography. That is another example of a quick fix, instant gratification, dopamine hits. And I think it's a conversation that, you know, we need to have as men. There's no denying that, you know, that takes away a lot from you. Science backs the fact that it is terrible for your brain, especially as a young male. When your brain is still evolving, one of the worst things that you could do to your brain is get it addicted to pornography. And so that is in this book, and it talks about how looking at pornography makes you weaker, how constant masturbation makes you weaker. And I've read a couple of books on sexuality, on concerning or on holding on to your energy, which is your ejaculation, your sperm, and how strong that makes you as a man. And I can attest to it because I've tried it before. Anyway, I hope this is not TMI, but it's real. So the other point that this book makes is on the evolution of masculinity. The author discusses the evolution of masculinity, suggesting that men become stronger and more capable when faced with hardship and adversity. Again, this is 100%. I agree with that. You know, especially as a kid, I've been through a lot of adversity, a lot of hardship in my life. And because of that hardship, I'm very mentally strong. It takes a lot for me to feel like I'm broken, for me to feel like, you know, something's not working. Don't get me wrong, it happens. But the part of being resilient, which is what adversity teaches, is knowing how to bounce back. And I think that that's why adversity is so important, because it teaches you how to be resilient. It teaches you that nothing lasts forever. Everything has a time period. That's one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned in my life. Nothing lasts forever. Everything transitions. Everything has a season. Everything has a lesson, and everything passes. The opportunity, I feel like, within the times when you are in an adverse situation is to fully indulge in the adversity and try to be as present as you can be so that you're able to squeeze out as much of the lesson as possible in that adversity. Instead of wishing for that adversity to be gone, instead of thinking of how your life is going to be better when that adversity is gone, try to squeeze out as much of the lesson as possible within that adversity. The other point this book makes, personal responsibility. It emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions and choices, believing that accountability breeds strength and character. And it's so funny I'm reading that bullet point because just yesterday I was driving home from the gym. I was able to make it in at 5:30 in the morning, did some boxing, some jump rope, and hit biceps, chest, and back pretty nicely. And I was on my way back home on the drive, and I was just thinking, as I often do, I had started the first day of my 21-day fast, which is what I'm on right now. And I think I had some worship music or something going on. But I was thinking, and I pull out my book and I make a video. I pull out my phone and make a video on essentially this point right here, that no matter what happens in my life, because there's been a lot of things that have happened in my life that haven't even been my fault, that have nothing to do with me. And I remember I used to get so frustrated growing up, like, why is this happening? Why am I in the middle of this? Why? They, blah, blah, blah. Right? That would be my initial thought. And it's a very common thought that a lot of us have from childhood based on how we are programmed from our parents' thinking in our environment. A very victim-minded mindset. Right? Thankfully, from a really young age, and I think, thanks to sports as well, I've been able to catch myself in those thoughts, not let those thoughts sweep me away. And instead of saying why, asking myself, what can I learn from this situation? How did I attract this situation? How can I make the situation better? You see, the quality of our lives and the quality of our relationships tend to improve when the quality of our questions improve as well. When we start asking ourselves and other people better questions, we start receiving better answers. And the same thing works with God. When we start asking God better questions, we start receiving better answers. So even if something happens in your life that is not your fault, ask yourself, how did I attract the situation? What can I learn from the situation? How can I be better based on the situation? What do I need to change about the situation? What do I need to change about myself? There's so many different questions that you can ask. And once you do, you'll get all the answers that you're looking for. I truly believe that because it's happened to me. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that I always received all of the answers that I was looking for, especially immediately. It hardly ever happens that way. Usually it takes time for me to receive the answers that I'm looking for, and they come in various different forms and shapes. However, back to the point, personal responsibility, I think, is the most important thing that one can do in their lives. Once you are responsible for you, nobody else can come and shake you away from what you're doing. Nobody else can come and make you feel a certain type of way about yourself, because you are responsible for yourself, for the way that you think, the way that you feel, your actions, etc. Next point, Discipline and Resilience. This book advocates for discipline, mental toughness, and resilience as essential traits that are developed through facing and overcoming difficult situations. And along with that comes confidence. Confidence comes from putting yourself in tough situations and getting through them, or at the least doing what you said you were going to do. If you tell yourself, I am going to the gym today or tomorrow at 5 in the morning, and you do it, and you get through the workout, and you feel good about yourself afterwards, you're going to feel a whole lot more confident than if you would have just stayed in bed and gone against your word. And I agree with that 100%. For me personally, ever since I was a kid, I have felt that and believed that my word is one of the most important things that I have. My word is everything. If I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I feel confident in the fact that a lot of people can attest to that. That when they look at me, they're able to say, you know what, him, whenever he says he's going to do something, he does it. Whenever he tells me something, I believe it. I trust him. I don't know what it is, but I trust that guy. And I've had that since I was a kid. Been very intentional about the words that I use, very intentional about what I say. There's been moments where I've gone a little bit outside the lane in terms of the intentionality of my words, meaning maybe speaking a little bit too loosely. However, I've been able to take a step back, reassess, and say, hey, I need to be more careful with my words. I need to be more tight with my words and my expressions. Because typically that is how I like to express myself. I'm very direct, very to the point, but I can be very creative and I can articulate my words pretty well. But I don't mean to say that because of me. I'm simply using myself as an example of what that looks like. Next point is redefined masculinity. It challenges traditional notions of masculinity, suggesting that strength isn't solely physical but also encompasses mental resilience, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. And that is such a strong point. That is such an important point because a lot of people, especially dudes, feel like all their strength comes from how strong they look or how physically strong they are. But strength encompasses more than that. Mental resilience, emotional intelligence, which is huge, and a lot of guys don't have. A lot of guys aren't able to read how people are feeling. They're not able to read the room. And the reason why they're not able to do that is because of ego, or because they've never sat down with themselves and meditated and prayed and understood how they feel themselves. Emotional intelligence comes from you understanding how you feel and why you feel the way that you feel. When you're able to understand you and why you feel the way that you feel, you're able to understand others and why they feel the way that they feel without them telling you anything about why they feel the way they feel. Now, communication is important. You always want to talk and articulate why you feel the way you feel and have other people articulate their points and express themselves as far as why they feel the way they feel. That's very important because it's a trait and a skill that a lot of people don't have, especially a lot of males. And that is the reason why you're seeing a lot of women successful in the workforce, is because they're able to read people's emotions and they're able to act and react accordingly based on how that person is feeling. Right now, women are kicking dudes' asses in a lot of areas. And so the reason why I'm sharing this podcast and this book is because as men, we got to get our shit together. Not in the sense to compete with women. I think it's awesome that women are doing great work around the world in the workforce, etc., but because simply we just have to be better men. Because we are men, we are supposed to lead. We are the head and not the tail. And lastly, redefine masculinity encompasses adaptability, which again is super important. Being able to be flexible. That's why the bamboo stick is one of the strongest, tree out there because it can flex. It's flexible. It can bend. It can adapt. Yet it's rooted. It's strong. You can't move. You can't break it, but it adapts. Typically, the person that has more power in a conversation or negotiation is a person that can adapt more, that is more flexible. Now, I've become adaptable throughout my years in my 20s. I used to be very rigid in certain things, very rigid, very proud, and I've broken off of that and I've tried new things and I've put myself outside of my comfort zone. So much so that people that have known me have probably looked at me and said, "Man, he's changing. This is not the Ruben that I know. What is he doing?" However, think about the strength that comes from you trying new things in the midst of knowing that it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to be new. People may take it the wrong way. People may talk about you, criticize you, whatever. However, the most important piece behind that action is the fact that you are becoming adaptable and you are becoming flexible and you are becoming multifaceted. That is strength. That is powerful. Think about that bamboo tree for a second. At the core, it's strong. It's unshaken. You can't shake that bamboo stick. And that's how I feel about myself and me. Because I know who I am at my core. I've known that for a really long time. Have I had to go through things? Yes. Have I had to shed off a few layers of things that didn't serve me anymore? Or heal unresolved trauma or childhood trauma? I have. However, in the midst of that, I was still able to develop myself. I was still able to become 100% confident and comfortable in who I was and knowing what I stood for. And no matter what I've tried or what I've done, I've always stood on those values: character, integrity, hard work. These are some of the values that I stand on. And to this day, what I want is for my actions to speak for themselves, for my actions to speak, and my words simply being a confirmation of that. Right. Next point, the warrior mindset. Arnio encourages adopting a warrior's mindset, embracing challenges head on, and using them as opportunities for growth and self improvement. Tackle the hardest task in the morning. Tackle the hardest things head on. Face everything and rise. No matter how uncomfortable it is, the more you put it off to the side, the more it's going to linger, the more it's going to eat at you. A warrior mindset is important. I'm grateful. I've always had that mindset. Always had that mindset. I'm a fighter, a warrior. I like to say God has put the spirit of David inside of me. And that's because I think that's why I'm so drawn to boxing and martial arts and just combat sports, because I just love it. There's something about it. It's very poetic. It's very artistic to me when I see it and when I do it. And it's a form of expression for me where I can really just release and be my most authentic self. In the ring, when I'm hitting a bag, I feel my most authentic self. And it's one of the most powerful, purposeful, beautiful feelings that I have ever gotten. Being in something and doing something that fully expresses who you are. Can't beat it. Next point, personal growth through struggle. The book emphasizes that facing and overcoming adversity leads to personal growth, character development, and the cultivation of inner strength. No matter what it is that you're going through, you can go through it and also grow through it by investing your time and energy, again, and asking the right questions within that adversity, and also seeking out resources, books, seminars, people, mentors, friends, etc. But no matter what it is that you're going through, just know that you can grow through it as well. And lastly, a call to action, which you have to have. It serves as a call to action for men to embrace challenges, take responsibility for their lives, and develop the qualities necessary to navigate tough times and emerge stronger. 100% correct. Embrace challenges, take responsibility for your own life. Know that people are counting on you. I think that that's one of the beautiful things about being a man. I recently was able to celebrate 6 months of no alcohol, completely sober, no alcohol. There was a point where I used to smoke weed every day when I was in college. Tried other things as well. And alcohol was never really a problem. I never needed a beer to go, after long days of work. Luckily, I always had the gym, or, I picked up other forms of release, such as meditation and yoga. But I did realize that whenever I would drink a lot, sometimes for fun, and sometimes to escape and deal with some things that I was dealing with that I didn't know how to, or I didn't deal with properly. So now I'm taking full responsibility for everything. No alcohol, 6 months. If you drink alcohol, I'm not judging you. You're on your journey. That's your life. This is mine. This is my story. This is my narrative. However, I've had a couple of different encounters that showed me why I needed to stop drinking. One of them was a Bible verse that stood out to me like clear as day. That's Proverbs 31, and I forget what number it is, but it talks about, you know, letting go of strong drink, lest you forget the adversities of the afflicted, or something like that. I don't remember it verbatim. Um, but what it made me think about and reminded me of was this sense of purpose that I've had since I was a kid. This sense of my life is not just my own, it's about something much bigger than myself. It's about freedom. It's about legacy. It's about being the one for my family, for people around me, taking responsibility. That's essentially what that Bible verse spoke to me about and motivated me. And it planted that seed. And that was back in 2020. And it just planted the seed that I needed to stop drinking because of my purpose, because of what I'm supposed to achieve here while I'm here, and what I want to achieve and who I want to become. And essentially, that's taking responsibility, right? Is it enjoyable for me to drink tequila? Hell yeah. I love taking 5, 10 shots of tequila and feeling amazing and having a great time. I don't like how I feel afterwards, or I don't like sometimes when I make a mistake or do something stupid. I don't feel good about myself then. So why not just eliminate all that altogether and focus on what's really important? These points collectively highlight the book's central theme that challenging times and our hardships are catalysts for personal growth, particularly for men, shaping them into stronger individuals. So, with that being said, if this episode was helpful to you, make sure you share it with somebody that you know. I would highly appreciate that. Check out my social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube as well. This is going to be posted on my personal YouTube channel, Ruben Halo. I also have another YouTube channel for property tours, Living in Denver 5280. If you or somebody you know, friend, family member, is looking to buy, sell, or invest here in the Denver market or nationwide, let me know. More than happy to help you out and provide you with quality service. So, with that being said, thank you all for hopping on to another episode of the Halo Effect podcast. And let's get out there and be better and stronger, man.